Seches Bava Kama. Seches Bava Kama, the very end of Perek the very end of the 9th Perek, and we are in the second wide line at the end of the page. We said in the Mishnah, Bava Kama Kufid Aleph Amud Aleph, end of the page in the wide lines. So we said two things in the Mishnah. Although the kapara consists of three components, there are three stages to the kapara of a person who stole from a ger and now has to bring the item to Beis Hamikdash. So if he brought the Gezeila before the Osham, then it's halfway through, but it's not full kapara. After the Gezeila is supposed to bring the kapara, and then the Osham, the korban, and then it's complete. But one without the other won't help. Also, we know that to bring the Osham first won't help. If he brought the Osham before the money, then the Osham is just went to waste, it is possible. And now it's his obligation that after he brings the money, he'll again have to bring another korban, because it always has to be the order of the money. Give the money first, and then the kapara. Maybe that is ben adam l'chavero, then ben adam l'mokom. That could be the idea. Give the money, and then the kapara, the korban. So says the Gemara, Shamedi Gezeila Achal V'Yashama. That's a quote from the Mishnah of exactly what I told you. Inanimili. How do you know that? First of all, how do you know that the money goes before the korban? It says in the pasuk, Ha'osham Hamushav LaHashem LaKoyen. Now, don't get confused. Ha'osham, we already established before, means the money. The money is called Osham, and therefore that money cannot be brought by night and cannot be brought half-half, etc. The Osham, which is the money, La Hashem, La Kohen, Hashem gives it to the Kohanim, Hashem gives it as a gift to the Kohanim, Milvad Ela Kippurim, Asher Yechaper Bo. Besides Ela Kippurim is definitely the korban. El means the ram, physically, that's a ram. Besides the ram, which he shall be atoned by. Michlal, that is to say, the kesef bareisha. So that is to say, because we see ha'osham, the money, and then milvad ela kippurim, besides ela kippurim, we assume that the word milvad means that whatever appears after the word milvad is afterwards chronologically. If it says bring X, milvad Y, then Y is after X. You know, the word milvad means, and then you have to bring the other one. So you say the money is first. Kesef bareisha, money goes first. So one of the Talmidim asked Rove, according to your logic, whenever it says milvad, the word following milvad is afterwards chronologically. If so, milvad oilas haboiker, it says about korban musaf, you bring korban musaf on Shabbos and Yom Tov and Rosh Chodesh, you bring korban musaf, and the korban musaf is mentioned as milvad oilas ha-boiker. Wait a second. We know who comes first, obviously, the oilas haboiker, the tamid, and then the musaf. But look what the pasuk says, milvad oilas haboiker. Oilas haboiker, the oil of the morning, is a tamid. You're telling me that achinami here too, michal the musafin bereisha? If you're telling me that the word following milvad is also chronologically second in the order in Beis Hamikdash, then something very funny is happening here. Musaf then comes out to be before the tamid. Chas v'shalom. V'atanya, it says in the Braisa, Mefurish Braisa, Minayin shelo yadova kodim latomid shel shachar. How do you know that no korban can be brought before the tamid shel shachar? I think that's also in Yoma, Yoma Lamed Gimel. How do you know that nothing precedes the tamid shel shachar? Amud loimer v'orach oleh ha'oilo. On top of the oila, there are other things besides the oila. V'omer oila rishono. Ha-oila, the first oila of the day, that's what's called the oila. After that oila, do whatever you want. Any korban that comes, whoever comes, mishabah baruch haba. But oila saboiker, the Talmud, is always the first korban. It's not the first thing. I said korban because the Tumas Sedeshin is before that. But amongst the korbanos, the first korban is the oila of the morning. So you see, our formula is wrong. We see that the word milvad plus X doesn't mean that X is always brought second. Obviously not. So how do you know that here when it says milvad ela osham, milvad ela kippurim, how do you know that ela kippurim comes second? Maybe just like by oila, ela kippurim should come first. Amalei, so Rava answered very clearly. No, you got me wrong. Asher yechaper by naftalei. I didn't say that the word milvad, when you dissect the pasuk milvad ela kipum sharichaper, yeah, the word asher yechaper, that's the word I was learning from, not through the word milvad. Yechaper. Anybody for Hebrew dikduk? Is yechaper past, present, or future? Will atone. Yechaper is future. You guys, you can teach Hebrew in Hebrew. You. Asher yechaper boy. Yeah. It will atone. The adain loy kiper. It was not yet mechaper, which means yechaper means when you bring the money, then the oila, the osham, the el osham will be mechaper. If it will be mechaper, that means to obviously say that he comes second and not first. Very good, and that's the reason. So we have the order here of money first, and then the osham, then the el tomid. You may ask, what about the chomish? So we said that the chomish is not me'akev. It's not so clear in the Rishonim the chomish is never me'akev, even if you didn't bring it at all, get a kapara. Or if it's not me'akev for the time being, and you can bring the chomish after the korban, which you can bring in sometime later. Not so clear in the Lashonis of Rashi, but Lamaisa, the most important ones are the osham and the kesef, money first, and then the korban. And the chomish is definitely less than them, one way or the other. No, and that exactly is the next topic. Oh, before we continue, I just want to introduce, and that's going to be the new little item over here. Before we continue, who is the almost twin brother or brother of Osham Gezelos? We've been learning an entire Perek now. Most of it had to do with Osham, the whole issue of Osham Gezelos. Even before we speak about Gezel again, a Gezel of anybody, a Gezel of a grandson of a big Rosh Yeshiva and a Hasidic Rebbe that has many Yorshim, if I stole from him, and then this is a test, the end of the Perek, a summary test, yeah? And then I stole from the grandson of the Rebbe, he has a lot of money, and then I swore to him l'sheker, and then I admitted, and he's alive and kicking, he's kicking me. So then what do I have to do? I admitted, I lied to you, Rabbi so-so. And that's called Osham Gezelos. And the same thing is if I did the same process, either I stole, I found a metzia and I denied it, b'sheker, I held someone wages, I borrowed, I have deposit, all that, right? In any shape or form, I hold your money against your will / against your knowledge. And what? I mean, you do know, and I'm lying to you, yeah? And I'm nishba, and I'm then mishaker l'shvua, and then I admit it's keren chomish v'osham. Now, what's the parallel? Who's the cousin of that family? As I said, there are 5 oshamois: osham gezelos and osham me'ilos. What osham me'ilos? Osham me'ilos is going to be introduced now. We import it for a certain need over here. Osham me'ilos is the osham that you bring if mistakenly you took money, you enjoyed, you benefited your nehene from something belonging to Beis Hamikdash. It was consecrated by someone. That's a nice fancy word for me. Yeah, it was mukdash by Reuven, and Shimon, or Reuven as far as I know, also was he used the stuff, the item of Beis Hamikdash unknowingly. If it was b'mezid and chlokes tanoim, but Lamaisa the shoygig for sure he has to bring exactly the same thing: keren to Beis Hamikdash, chomish to Beis Hamikdash. Beis Hamikdash is the victim instead of the regular guy. So that's a parallel case. And the psukim there are a little bit different. What we're going to do now is very nice fusion. We're going to now see and connect the 2 parshas of Osham Gezelos and Osham Me'ilos. Me'ilah, by the way, in Hebrew means embezzlement. To embezzle is lim'ol, also in modern Hebrew. Yeah, it's a very similar idea, yeah. Although it's b'shoigig. If somebody embezzled the money of a bank or an organization, government, it never happens. But I'm saying in theory, if such a thing would have happened, I don't know, in this country, then you say me'ilah b'ksafim. So now, Tonu Abonon, minayin shem hevi me'ilosoi v'lo hevi hashomoy. Let's say you brought the korban me'ilah. Have you red alert? We're not talking here about gzeila, me'ilah. You brought the me'ilah, which means the money of the me'ilah. You brought, let's say you mistakenly somehow sucked out the money of Beis Hamikdash worth 100 shekels, and you Yes. Bemezid, some say Malchus and some say also. What I remember, it says Malchus if it's Bemezid, and another one says either nothing or also Korban. But everyone agrees Shogeg is the Korban for sure. So you brought the Korban, not the Korban. You brought the money of the Me'ilah, the 100 shekels. But you did not bring the Korban. Korban, I don't bring Korbanos. Vegetarian. Shalom Khalila. Let's say he brought the Korban without bringing the money of the Me'ilah. How do you know that it's not Yoitze? You have to have both. Even if you have half a kapara, but you're not fully Yoitze by one without the other. Talmud Loimar, the El Ha'osham benislach loi. El Ha'osham. Remember what's Osham? Tricky. Osham in these parshas means the money. The money is called Osham. The El Ha'osham. El Ha'osham, Rashi says, El Ha'osham. Ail is ram, can't run away from that. And Osham is the money. So you need both El Ha'osham. Okay, you need the money and the Korban. That applies to Me'ilah. The order. What? We said that before about Osham Gezelos. You were saying Osham Me'ilos. Exactly. We're saying it now again. Good. No difference. Frag the Gemara, very nice. Then it's forgiven. One second. Yeah. How do you know? Which means this is different. And means you brought the Osham and add and say, don't worry, tomorrow I'm bringing the money. Calm down, guys. I like to do things my own order. I happen to buy a shepsele, a ram in the shuk, and it's more convenient for me to bring the korban first. And tomorrow, bring you the money. I can even write you, IOU. And maybe the pasuk Eila Osham tells me that, as Baruch is asking, says lo yotza, as we know over here also, right? To bring the korban and then the money, that ain't working. You'll have to bring the korban again afterwards. You can't break the order. How do you know? Talmud Loimar. Just the other way around from what you said, be'el ha'osham, which means ha'osham bikvar, the aisle that's brought after an osham. El ha'osham means to say, yeah, that's a Hebrew in English, the adjective and the noun. El ha'osham, the aisle that is brought for the osham which already brought. In other words, if I say graduation party, that means there was already studying, there was already university, there was already something before. El ha'osham is the aisle brought for the money. Mashma, the money was brought. Get that? It's an adjective. It's not chronically. It's not a chronological thing. Smichus that describes something already happened. The aisle of the thing, the end of the party. Yeah, of the something already existing. Okay, very nice. So far they're the same, right? Osham and they will be the same all the way to the end. By the way, now yochel kashem she'ail ve'osham me'akvim kachoymish me'akev. Maybe okay, that sounds nice. Ail ve'osham me'akev. The money, the korban, can't run away without them. They're both me'akev, they're both mandatory. Maybe the extra choimish, which is 5/4, is also me'akev. And this, by the way, my friends, gentlemen, this we did not see a makor for that in Osham Gezelos. I told you this, but we did not yet see a source for the fact that choimish is not me'akev in the Osham Gezelos, our guy. We did not yet see a source. That's what we're going now to import from Osham Me'ilos. Get that? How do you know by Osham Me'ilos that Chomish is not mandatory to one level or the other? Amud loimer be'el ha'osham v'nislach loi. El ha'osham, money and the korban, create 2 + 2 = 4. Ail and osham create nislach loi. Slicha, ail ve'osham me'akvim behekdesh. The ail and osham are me'akev in terms of Me'ilah. That if you did not bring any of them, you don't get kapara, not full kapara. In choimish me'akev, it's not. The choimish is not me'akev because it doesn't say ayil ve'osham v'choimish. Choimish is mentioned in the beginning, but at the end of the pasuk, when it gives you the hard line that the ended, what you really need is a necessary thing to have kapara. Slicha, choimish is all of a sudden disappeared. You see, choimish is not me'akev, and that we only saw where? That we only saw in Osham Me'ilos, not in Gezelos. But now one big happy family. Now they're going to merge and join together and are going to teach one to the other. The Yilmad Hekdesh Mehediot, the Hediot Mehekdesh. We're going to have this fusion, this mutual, teaching from one to the other. hekdesh from Hediot. Hediot is a regular guy, either Tim McKenzie or Ponavizhara, whichever is a regular yid. Hekdesh is based on Mikdash. Both Oshams teach one to the other. Hekdesh learns Mehediot. What do we learn from Hediot to Hekdesh? Ma Osham de Osham Keren of Osham de Ocho Keren. I don't know if you noticed, I didn't tell you, I don't want to confuse you, but that dictionary term, that glossary term, that Osham equals money, which is strange, which is like a unique thing, that we only saw in Osham Gezeila. That we saw after the Mishnah Daf Kuf Yud. That we export that to who? To Osham Me'ilos. Because if you notice, we just said before, Elo Osham mean Me'ilos. Osham means money. Okay, that's a terminology we learned from Gzelos to Me'ilos. The Hediot Mehekdesh. And there's one item which Hediot learns from Hekdesh, which Hekdesh teaches, so to speak. We extract from Hekdesh to Hediot. What is it? Ma Hekdesh en Chomesh Me'akev, af Hediot nami en Chomesh Me'akev. Just like the Hekdesh, the Chomesh is not Me'akev. But Hekdesh, the Chomesh is not Me'akev. What does that mean? We just proved that what? Eil ha'osham v'nislach loi, by Me'ilo, somebody stole by mistake from Beis HaMikdash. The two items are Me'akev, but the Eved are the money and the Osham, and not the Chomesh. Af Hediot nami and Chomesh Me'akev. Hediot too, we learn one from the other because they're very similar words, similar concepts, similar everything. So we learn from there to Hediot. Hediot also, which is our story, our issue, if you didn't bring the Chomesh, but the Eved, it's not Me'akev. Hadron lach gozel. Very small contingent today, unfortunately, but this is the siyum of a gozel eitzim, and we're about to embark on Imir Tzeh Hashem, the last but not least Perek. I am listening. We're about to start Baruch Hashem, the last Perek of Bava Kama HaGozel U'Ma'achil. The topic of this Perek, at least at the beginning, that talks about the children of a Ganav. How does it feel like to know that your father really stole all that money that he was feeding you all these years? Okay, that's a nice question, but we're not talking about the psychological aspect. We're talking here about the monetary aspect. And the question is, children of Ganav, people who actually inherited or got b'matana, the father was very rich, they never knew where all this money came from, yeah? You always hear these stories, yeah? And then, he gave them either as children, he fed them at the table, or he took care of the sustenance, or when they grew up, he gave them a car, even after their marriage, he gave them certain things. I'm giving these examples on purpose, yeah? Something, and then it came out that the stuff was stolen. The question is, how much responsibility is there for the children of the Ganav to return the Gezeila, especially after the father died? That's the issue in general. To be more precise, before we start, this Amud can be hard or easy, and as usual, it depends a lot if you have the background information before. This Perek takes us back a little bit to Merubah. It's not as hard as Merubah, but it takes us there a little bit. And if you remember the rules of Merubah, let's just refresh the Merubah formulas. The Merubah formulas. Let's say a person did Kinyan Gezeila, right? He did Meshicha, Hagbah. So it was a Kinyan, which makes it his, in inverted commas, to have Chiyuv Hashava. There's a Chiyuv of Heshiv. Now, let's say the person was Miyash, the victim was Miyash. That's important. The victim being Miyash means one step away from the victim. He's not interested in getting it anymore. I mean, he gave up on it. He's not even looking for it. And then there was Shinui. There's Kinyan plus Yush plus Shinui. In this Gemara, the only Shinui we have to talk about is Shinui Reshus, which means Reuven stole from Mr. V, Victor the victim. Victor the victim? Victor the victim, Reuven stole from him. And then Victor was Miyash. Then Reuven sold it on or gave it or possibly bequeathed it to Shimon. Now Shimon had it in his hands. So generally speaking, the Gadol, and that's a formula we have to follow all the time over here. And that is, there is Yush. In other words, while it was by the hands of the Ganav, in this case, the Tate, the Heilige Tate, or they thought it was Heilig, yeah, there was Yush on the side of the, I'm not saying, by the way, there are many ways to explain this Mishnah. I'm offering one formula here. There was Yush in the hands of the Ganav. Eventually, somebody called his son, got it, the Matana, or what? On behalf of which owner? Yes, the owner was Miyash. Did I say the Ganav? I'm sorry. Thank you. The owner was Miyash. And then Mr. Ganev gave it over to his son. His son's 20th birthday, so he gave him a very nice red Cadillac. And that red Cadillac that the son got at the age of 20, I stopped chose the word for no apparent reason. And that he got, for his 20th birthday, and he doesn't know where it came from. Then somebody knocks on the door of the son, who lets his own financial entity and say, hey, maybe there's Yush and Shinui Reshus, change of domain, change of ownership. And then Me'ikar Adin, the son would not have to give it back. Why? Yush and Shinui Reshus, the second guy doesn't have to give it. That's a general picture. No questions now. That's very, very general, just a formula. Yush plus moving to another domain, another person, equals what? That the first person is not going to get it back. Maybe he's going to get the money, maybe not even the money. We'll see. Says the Mishnah, Be'ezos Hashem Nasim and Etzlech, a lot of Siyata Dishmaya we need Be'ezos Hashem. A Gezel Machilas Bonov. Case number one, a person stole, miskan is no money, Gezel Machilas Bonov, and then he fed his children with the stolen money. Where is the stolen yellow cheese? Where is the stolen potatoes? In their stomach. The Machilas Bonov, the Bonim are, let's say, above Bar Mitzvah. One could argue that they are the ones, if they ate, they are the ones who physically finished off the yellow cheese and potatoes that you stole from the market. And Machilas Bonov, that's the case. That's one possible case. Or maybe Machilas Bonov means other things. Let's say he fed them. V'niach lifneim or heniach lifneim. Case number two, Zichron Levrocha, the Tate died. Heniach lifneim is the synonym of what? Of he gave them over, bequeathed. They inherited him. And in this case, we don't have to say that the money is gone. Could be the money is in their hands. Turin Milashalem. In both cases, the children are Potter Milashalem. So either the father, while he was alive, he gave his children something and they finished it off, or alternatively, he died and they now inherited. They're inherited. They got it. And even if they have it in their hands, Turin Milashalem, they still have the yellow cheese in their hands, or maybe even the socks, the shoes, the little chair in the corner. Anything that he stole is by them. You could say children are a separate entity from the father after his death, and Turin Milashalem, they don't have to pay. Let's assume there was Yush on the victim side. Then there was passing on through Yerusha is a new financial entity that's called Shinui Reshus. They are potter from paying, even from paying. They don't even have to pay. Usually a Ganev himself, if the father was alive, maybe the father has to pay because the father is the Ganev. He has to pay money and not the actual item. But just like you changed an item, you don't give the item, you give the money. But the children are potter even from paying because they did not steal. They did not steal. They are not the Ganovim. They got it from the father, but they're not Ganovim themselves. They didn't act. They didn't commit the Gneva. I'm being a very general reading the Mishnah. There are two ways to read the Mishnah. This is just to translate the Mishnah one possible way. I'm being very powerful over here. Third case. One way to explain this is as follows. If the item is something that yesh ba'achrayas, doesn't mean something that's responsible. There's a responsibility over it, which usually means land. A piece of land is something which is like responsible for you because an item that is mitaltalin here today, gone tomorrow. Hopefully not. The karka lo'olam amedes, lo'otz lo'olam amedes. The karka is always reliable, is always there, never moves anywhere except for Muhammad. So you don't have to pay. So then, let's say the thing that he stole was a piece of land, or according to, we'll see later opinions, any other item, like you can laugh again, red Cadillac, or a very clearly, easily noticeable item that everybody knows was stolen from the victim. Let's say Reuven the Ganev stole Victor's the tie, and on the tie it says Victor the victim, or he stole his big car, or he stole something that the entire town knows used to belong to Victor, was stolen by Reuven. Reuven is long dead, and I'm not sure what's happening with him in Gan Eden or Gehenim, this Ganev. And now the children are driving the red Cadillac, they're driving the car through town. Chayavin l'shalem. In this case, they have to pay. Why do they have to pay? Didn't we say that there was Yush and Shinui Reshus, they don't have to pay? Well, true. But if the item is very noticeable and very clearly everybody knows that this item used to belong to the victim and now stolen by the father, because of I think it's the fifth commandment, yeah, when it says, honor thy father and thy mother, right? And because of that, yeah, we say, because of Kibud Av, they force them to pay back the item. Because everybody in town says, did you see this car? You remember Reuven the Ganav, he stole this car from Victor, and everybody remembers that. Everybody points a finger at the car. Maybe the son doesn't care. Maybe he's Holich B'darchei Oviv. But we care about the honor of the father, even though he was a Ganav. And we say you have to return the item if it's something big and clear, and everybody can see you're wearing the stolen good or you're driving the stolen good. So basically, let's repeat the three parts of the Mishnah again. Item number one, first part of Godel Machilas Bonov. He's feeding his children, and the children are potter from paying. Either he fed the children, he gave them over the matana and they ate it up, right? Or, now I'm adding another layer, Tosfos says, let's say the children are children who are living at home, and he fed them. The actual misken, the avrech has no money, not an avrech. The guy has no money. He stole the yellow cheese and some tomatoes, and he fed that to the children, and they're 15, 16 years old. In that case, if the item would not be eaten, if the item was actually kept by them, then of course you have to return it. You know why? Because the children who live with the father are the same reshus. There was no shine reshus. It's the same domain, same financial entity. 15, 16-year-olds, they work for themselves. Some babysitting money goes for their thing. They're absolutely taller than you, and halachically so. I'm not going out to Tkonas Usha. Let's say till the age of 18, yeah? Mimela, because they ate the yellow cheese that he stole from the market, and they are still under his own entity, his own authority, that's not called Shinei Reshus. And therefore, had it been in the house, of course, he has to give it back. But because they ate it, they don't have to give it back. Why? Because there was no Shinei Reshus. True, there was no Shinei Reshus. But because it was Yush, and the children never stole it, the children themselves, they're Potter Miloshalim. The supermarket owner, cannot confront the 16 years old and say, hey, you, mister, you ate my yellow cheese. I saw you yesterday. No, I ate from what my father gave me. I did not steal, A. And B, it's not here anymore. So you can't catch me on any side of the hide and seek game. I did not commit the gneva, and the gneva is not in my hands either. It's in my stomach. Mainly is potter. Case number two, heniach lifneim. If the father died, the children have the yellow cheese and they never ate it yet. They'll eat it after the Shiva. So delicious. Then they're potter from paying. The potter from paying the money or even the yellow cheese itself, possibly. Possibly even, why? Because it was Yush and Shinei Reshus. We did not steal it. Who owes you? The father. But Lamaisa, there was Yush, Shinei Reshus, because Yoshim a separate entity, and now you're not owed anything. The cheese itself, we don't have the Chiur Beheshiv Gezeila because we're not the thieves. If it's not a yellow cheese in their fridge, but it's rather what? It's the red Cadillac or the black Subaru, then what? Then they have to give back the black Subaru. Why? Because it's not a covet for the father that they drive around with a car that everybody knows that is a stolen car. That's Begadol, that's one readable way to read the Mishnah. However, that's only the beginning. And if you got this, you got a big chunk of it. And now the Gemara is going to explain. I only accept questions of if you didn't understand something specific. I don't questions of what if and no theorizing for now. Yeah, I didn't know. Says the Heilige Gemara, Omar of Chizda. Now comes Rav Chizda with his statement. Says Rav Chizda, Gozdal velonis yashua b'alim. A person stole. Reuven stole from Victor, the victim. And Victor was not miyash. He's still looking all over. He put signs everywhere. Where is my golden ring? Lo nisyashua b'alim. Ubo acher b'achol mimenu. Now another Ganev came, and Ganev min Ganev. Ganev number 2, Shimon, came and stole from Reuven the Ganev and ate it up. What did he do with the ring? I don't know. He crushed it. He ate. It's not a ring. It's yellow cheese. He ate the yellow cheese. Achol mimenu. So now who's going to take the money from? There was no Yush yet, which means when Shimon stole the yellow cheese from Reuven, yes, that was before the owner was miyash. The owner was still actively looking for it, wanting it back. Now, finally, the Ganovim were found. Reuven, sounds like a comedy now, Reuven and Shimon blaming each other, ha ha ha. Reuven is one who actually stole, and Shimon stole from Reuven. Wow. Now it's eaten up. The victim, can charge. Let's say the yellow cheese was a fancy, expensive one, 100 shekels, imported from Europe, yeah? And he can take the yellow cheese is in the stomach of Shimon, yeah? Now, wow. The victim can either, the owner can either claim back the money from Reuven, who actually stole it from him, or from Shimon. Why can he take it from Shimon? We said what? We said in the Mishnah that Shimon, that's already, I'm not the Ganev, and it's not by me. Ha ha ha, don't catch me anywhere. Says, my tiny, you know the reason is, just keep reading. As long as the Balim was not Meyash, in the first stage, when that yellow cheese was in Reuven the Ganev's domain, since the Balim were not Meyash and actively looking for it frantically and they want it back, it's as if you never left the ownership, the authority of the original owner. That's the word, which means, since although Reuven did Kinyan Gezeila, but because it's only Kinyan Gezeila, still a long way to go until you'll become the real owner. And therefore, although it's in the house of Reuven, the Ganev, and although the other guy, it's out of his control, the owner, but Lamais, it still belongs to the owner. It's as if this is the place in Reuven's Ganev's house where the yellow cheese is like an embassy of the owners of the owner. Because Lamais is still looking for it. It's still his. It's still his. And Mimele, when Shimon stole it, it's as if he stole it from the owner's house. And that's why Shimon is as an active Gazlan as Reuven. And that's why either one is Chayiv. Mechavrusa told me, Shulchan Aruch says, at the beginning, I didn't believe him, it says Shulchan Aruch, you can also charge them if you're the owner and you confront them in Beis Din, you can say you should pay half-half. Interesting. Yeah, half-half. In other words, I see both of you as Ganovim. You stole from me, and you stole from me, Kilu, again, so to speak. Yeah? Mimela, we say both are Chayovim in the act of Gineva. Fine? No, or either Reuven, or Shimon, or half-half. No, they have to return the money. Okay. That's another issue, Kefal. I don't know who's going to pay Kefal. Whoever pays has to pay Kefal. Half with Kefal, I don't know. Whoever pays also has to pay Kefal. Maybe they pay half a Kefal. Could be. I do know that when it comes to, I'm answering your question about half a Kefal. I do know when it comes to Bava Kama, there's no halves. That I remember from the Drosha. You can't pay 4 halves if you shechted it alone. But half a Kefal, maybe. I don't remember. Now, Freg the Gemara, the Chor of Chizda, is against our Mishnah, although I'm sure you know the answer. Now, look at our Mishnah. Please quiet down the microphones. Okay, thank you. A person stole, either fed his children or what? He bequeathed it, he gave it over by Yerusha. They don't have to pay at all. Why? That seems to be against Rav Chizda. Why? Because if we say there was no yush and the children are shinui reshus, now listen to this. As you already figured out, shinui reshus before yush does not help, right? In other words, if, as we just said, if Shimon stole from Reuven while owner is looking for it, not Me'ayish, he is actively owning it by wanting it, yeah, then we say it doesn't help the Shinui Reshus. So what's our Mishnah talking about? Our Mishnah said that the second generation who got it b'matana or b'Yerusha or by something else, yellow cheese for supper, what about them? We say that they're potter. Why are they potter? The chayre, if it's before Yush, they're chayiv. They still stole from the owner. The obvious answer is, very obvious, Rav Chizda must say, as already told you, I preempted it. That's why it's so easy. The Acher Yush, the entire Mishnah is L'Acher Yush. This whole business of second generation, Pegadol, never having to pay, unless it's the red Cadillac of Mr. Victor, yeah, in most cases, don't have to pay. You know why? Shkoyach, because it was Yush. Since it was Yush, and then given over to the children, one way or the other, then in a Chinami, the children don't have to pay. But Louis Tsuyar, that Mr. Owner is still looking and looking and searching, and it's not mi'ayish at all. And it was given over to them any way or form, any shape or form. By Matana, by Yerusha, by, I don't know, sustenance, no Meshaneh. They will have to give it back, absolutely so. They'll have to give it back to the owner. So far, so good. That's the Mishnah with the interpretation of Rav Chizda. That's not hard at all, right? Hard cheese, but not a hard Mishnah. Do you have a question?
Rabbi, can I ask a question?
Yes, you can, and I'll, yes. What did we say in the second part of the Mishnah? If he died and left it to his children, the potter from paying, okay, why? We assume because they're separate entity. Amar Rami Bar Chama, says Rami Bar Chama, what I told you all along, Zois, I can derive from here, I can learn from here, the shus yoirish, the shus lokech dami. The domain of a yoirish once, or after the death and after receiving the inheritance, is like a lokech, is like a buyer, meaning it's a new entity. Although it goes down, it trickles down, and it's an automatic thing, and it's the same family, the son is like the father, says Rami Bar Chama, this is all very cute and nice, but at the end of the day, when it comes to called Chosh and Mishpat, the son is a new entity. It's a new place, which makes a lot of sense. That's why in our Mishnah it's called Shinui Reshus, because it's a new Reshus, even though never bought it, acquired it, no paper has to be signed. The father closed his eyes and never wrote Yerusha, Tzavah, it's automatically the son, fine, but it's a new entity, it's like a new Kinyan, and therefore it's a new Reshus, new authority, new domain, and there, which makes sense in our Mishnah. There was Yush, once he died and he bequeathed it, it's Shinui Reshus, beautiful. Rove Omar, Rove is a little bit more complicated. Rove Omar, no, Reshus Yoresh, Lav Kirshus Lokech Dami. Wow. Says Rove, a Reshus of a Yoresh is not like a buyer, it's as if it stayed in the father's Reshus. Although, of course, the son is the owner, it's not Mr. Reuven, it's Reuven Jr. However, there was no transition from Reshus A to Reshus B. Lahavdil, a very not so nice example, as far as I know, I'm not so sure about it anymore. If a person inherits something from his father, although I don't think it's true, in some countries, you don't have to pay taxes for just, inheriting from the father. If you bought the item, you have to pay taxes. You sell, you buy the house. I don't know about England, but yeah, VAT, v'chulei. If you inherit from the father, automatically there's no tax. It's kilu. No transaction was made. Yeah, I don't know about the laws. I don't have time to talk about it now. There is a thing. I'm not sure about it. Okay, weiter. Good to know. Which means Rava says it's the same domain mitzad that what? There was no Shuni Reshus. Oh, what? Woo. If there's no Shuni Reshus, how are the children potter? Right? If you say there was Yush, and then Reuven died, and his Moyershit to Reuven Jr., the son, was Reuven Jr. Potter. It's the same Reshus. Says Rava straight away. You know the story over here is Keshe Acholum. The children ate it all up, yummy, yummy yellow cheese, or they spent the money, or I don't know what they did with it. They wore out the shoes. Mela what? In Mela we say, hey, there is no point in time you can catch them. They're playing catch. They're playing hide and seek. To steal, we didn't steal, right? We didn't commit the actual gneva that created the chiyuv of the hishiv Gezeila shagozal ba'ikra hey. No, you say, hey, here's my cheese. No, your cheese is already in our stomach. Your money was spent already in Disneyland. Yeah, there's no place you can catch us, and only then the pot, which means Rob is making a huge ukim, not ukim, a huge qualification in the Mishnah, which means according to Rava, Lu Yitzuyar, that the yellow cheese is there, or the shoes are there, or the socks are there, or the plastic chair is there. They do have to give it back, according to Rava. Well, according to Rami Bar Chama, no, that's a machloitis. According to Rami Bar Chama, it's a new reshus. Yush, Shune Reshus, voila, life is good. They can look at the guy and says, sorry, sorry about that. Yeah, and what? This is not a Torah anytime. And what? And they can say, we're not returning you the chair. Why? Because the Ganav was our father. Yush, Shune Reshus means it's ours, and Mimela, we're not going to give you anything, not even the ain, not even if it's there. Rabbi says, no. If it's Be'ain, you guys have to give it back because there was no Shune Reshus. You're still the same Reshus. And now the only reason they're potter because they ate it all up. That's why they're potter. Okay. Perek the Gemara. What was the third case? Remember the third case of the Mishnah? Red Cadillac, which means what? Only if it's something very noticeable and big that everybody knows about, then they have to return it. Perek the Gemara, that doesn't make sense with Rava. Perek the Gemara, diktani seifa. If the seifa, since the seifa says im hoyodovel sheyesh ba'achayis, if it's something like a piece of land, everybody knows that building belongs to Victor and was stolen. Everybody passes by the street and points at that's a stolen building, right? Or things like that, or the Cadillac, or the Subaru, or the something, yeah, a motorcycle, or a cow, or obviously the Gemara later on will talk about cows and donkeys. Why do they have to pay? Oh, Kibud Av, Kibud Av. Everybody knows Hashem tzach for the family, that I'm going to get shidduchim. The father, what are you talking about? Lefi Rava, that's not true. Michlal, that is to say, the Reisha, B'Gzeila Ke'emes Askinan. If the Sefer talks about Gzeila, that is what? That is noticeable and drives around town, and then you have to give it back. Mashma what? That if it's something that is there and is not famous, excuse me, example, undershirt or socks, something that people don't see, mashma, that you don't have to give it back, and that's not true. Because according to Rava, you do have to give it back. Get what's going on here. Get the car collision here of Rava. You're telling your Rava any item that's there that wasn't eaten up has to be returned. It's not true. The Mishnah says at the end only the fancy big car or the cow or something everybody sees, only that should be returned. Mashma, a little plastic chair in the mirpeset and nobody notices, does not have to be returned, and that's against Rava. Omar Lecharava, no. I have a whole different interpretation to the end of the Mishnah. Achika Omar. This is really what the Mishnah says. That he gives a different pshat for that last piece of Mishnah. Achrayus doesn't mean that they left them a red Cadillac and not a blue Subaru and not a Toyota. Im heniach lehem aviem achrayus nechosim chayovin l'shalem, which means achrayus nechosim is the good old achrayus nechosim, which we see all over Shas, means a piece of land not stolen. The story is as follows. The father was a Ganav, unfortunately, and the father stole what? Yellow cheese, money, things that are consumable, that are perishable, and they ate it all up. They ate it up, and they don't have to pay. And that's the story of the Mishnah. They ate it up, they gobbled it up, they consumed it, it's gone. Says the end of the Mishnah. If the father has a piece of land that has nothing to do with the Gneva, the father happens to be a landowner. Legally, he owns a piece of land, an apartment. Then they have to pay even the stuff that they ate up. Why? Because we always know that if somebody has a piece of land or somebody does not have a piece of land, it's a huge enough kamina. Why is it that in order to write pruzbul, you only can write pruzbul if you have a piece of land? Yeah, that's halacha. It's all story about it. 1 minute. You know why? A piece of land means there was achrayas and shibud nechosim. Shibud, which means when the person stole when he was alive, when Reuben the thief stole and he was alive, and he was taken to court, says Tosfos, and the court said that he has to pay. If he has a piece of land, that piece of land is like, that's the word, Hashem helped me, guarantor. The piece of land is like a guarantor that he has to give back the amount, either the yellow cheese or its value, and that applies also to his children. If the children bought, they didn't buy, the children inherited a piece of land, that piece of land is meshubad, is mortgaged to the victim of the Gneva. That's why they have to pay. So that's completely out of the box. Even with Yush and everything, even with Yush and Shino, everything. So although, forget about, I'm not sure about Shino Rishus, but in this case, according to Rava, there's no Shino Rishus, right? According to Rava, what did Rava say? Again, says Rava like this. According to Rava, there was no Shino Rishus. True? Fine. So now, however, if they ate it up, they don't have to pay. Says the end, why? We didn't steal, and it's not here. Can't catch me. But Lamaise, if the father has a piece of land, I can catch you. That piece of land, when I stood 5 years ago when your father was alive, and I took him to Bezdin, that piece of land automatically, even without saying, the chos of shalodom arevim hem loy. The chos of shalodom arevim loy. The chos of a person like guarantors. There's an automatic mortgage without signing 5 different documents and spending all day in the bank. The mortgage, it's mortgaged to the victim of the Gneva automatically, and that stays with the children. They inherited mortgaged land. Of course, it's still mortgaged to him. That's a genius answer of Rava. Emela says Rava, so let's repeat, let's review. Says Rava Azoi. Really, says Rava, Yorshim are the same entity as the father. So right now I'm ignoring your case. They are the same entity, okay, according to Rava. And therefore, if they ate it up, what can you do? If it's still there, if it's a plastic chair at the end of your pesach, nobody looks at it, nobody cares about it, but it's stolen, of course they have to give it back. Even if it's not a big fancy car, they have to give back any item because they're the same entity. They're Kilu, the father himself. They are the father. So what's the funny story at the end of the Mishnah? No, the end of the Mishnah is telling you, even if they ate up all the money and all the cheeses and all the whatever he had there, lo mishaneh, if there's a little karka tinkling and winking to you from the corner, hi, I'm the karka that your father was automatically against his will mortgaged to the victim, that karka stays. Then you have to pay. Obviously, you're the owner of the mortgage karka. You have to pay. Let's give mortgage karka. Either give the karka. You don't want to give the karka? No problem. There's something called CASH or bank transfer will do also. That's the Mishnah according to Rava. Okay? Perek the Gemara. Now, so far that's good. With that, we're going to stay till the end of the Amud. There will be more stories, but again, there are two ways to learn the Mishnah. Way number one, Rami Bava Kama. The children are separate entities. Rami Bava Kama, the children are a whole new entity. Life is easy. Yeah, entity which is new, and therefore there was Shinei Rashus. Shinei Rashus, Avada, they don't have to pay back. Even if they have it in their ownership, they don't have to give back. They're not the Ganovim. There was Shinei Rashus. It's out of your sight already. It was completely acquired by the father. Gemarnu. Only if it's something that everybody knows. Yes. Yes. It's true. I usually stand corrected. The father, it's not so simple. The father finished his Kinyan Gezeila by giving them. It's a nidan in the Meruba, if you remember. Lo mishaneh. Right now they are the owners. I agree with you. Although what I said was not completely wrong. Lo mishaneh. Fine. I'm with you. Lamaisa, the seam of his Kinyan, so Gita v'Yodabam Kachad is they became the current owners. Lo mishaneh. They are the owners. Nice. However, the expensive thing, everybody knows that they have to return. Who's that? Rami Bava Kama, put it in one box. Rava says no. Rava says mapitom. Rava says nay. Really, the children are the same entity as the father. There was no transaction, no change from A to B, from one reshus to the other. In Hilchas Shabbos, you wouldn't be chayv. I'm joking, yeah? It's not reshus hayochid, it's not a reshus, so to speak, yeah? And mimela what? Mimela in that case, why don't they have to pay? Well, they do have to pay. They do have to pay. If it's there, they have to pay. If the chair is there or the socks are there, they have to pay. Not only if it's big and fancy. Return, true. Right. However, or even to pay cash However, if they ate it, they don't. Very good. If they ate it up, they don't have to because it's not there anymore. However, and they didn't steal. However, if they have a karka that's meshubad, they have to return even if it's already perished. That's all. Even in cheese. Say cheese. Perek the Gemara on Rove. Now we're only going to establish basically what's going to happen now. Rava and Rami Bava Kama, each one will get support from a different Tana. Perek the Gemara now against Rava. We heard Rebbe teaching his son, Rabbi Shimon, the following explanation in the Mishnah. He explained the last bit of the Mishnah. What does it mean, Davar Shesh B'Achrayis? It doesn't mean only a piece of land, which is Achrayis. Even if it's a big cow that he always used to plow with, who used to? Victor, the victim, used to plow this cow, and the entire village saw that all the time. He had a donkey that would walk with, and everybody knows sensational news all over the internet and the newspapers. Everybody knows that Reuben stole that chamor, that cow from Victor, and now the children are using it. Pasnish. They have to give it back because of the honor of the father. That's exactly like Rami Bava Kama and exactly against Rava. Rava says even if it's a tiny little sock in your pesset, they also have to give it back according to Rava because it's still there and they're the same reshus. So Rava obviously cannot exist with Rebbe. Hey, Rebbe is a Tana and he's the Tana of the Mishnah. How can Rava deal with that? Hello, Rava says Rava. Rava now says something very interesting. What? Hello, Rava. Okay, but that's against Rebbe. Right. But Rava needs support now. What does Rava need now? How can an Amora, you tell me, how can an Amora survive help when there's one Tana not like him? He has to get help from another Tana. Lovely, absolutely fabulous. Hello, Rava. When I will die, Rab Oisha Nofik Lavosi, in Gan Eden, Rabbi Oshia will come to greet me. Rava says, Rabbi Oshia the Tana, he will come, he'll kiss and hug me. The Taritzna Snisin Kavose, because I explained the Mishnah like him. In other words, basically, Rav gets support now from Rav Oshia. Rav Oshia has a whole new brisa now, and that brisa is going to basically say like Rava. I'm going to quickly read it just to see how Rabbi Oshia is a good support for Rava, and then we'll go. The Tani, Rabbi Oshia, says Rabbi Oshia. Rabbi Oshia, by the way, is the Tana. He has every right to argue on Rebbe, right? They're also the same generation, by the way. A goizel machilas bonov, a person stole and fed his children, and it's in their stomach. Turn milashalim. Yeah, it's just not here anymore, and we're not the thieves. And let's say he after his death, he left them inheritance. And if the Gezeila is still there, the chayovin, hey, Rav is celebrating. If the Gezeila is still there, they have to pay because they're the same reshus, and the item is still there. And the Gezeila kayem is pturin. The Gezeila is not there, they're potter. Why? Because we're the same entity, but it's just not here anymore, and we're not the ganovim. However, comes the punchline, if the father left them nothing to do with the gneva, the father left them a piece of land separate from the gneva, but automatically meshuba to the gneva, mortgage to the gneva, then chayav l'shalom whatsoever. So basically, that's very, very Rava style kind of rises of Oishia, is Rav Oishia, and therefore Rava says, don't scare me off with your statement from Rebbe. I have my big brother called Rav Oishia. And Rav Oshia says exactly like me, that if there is a zaytadiki, a Christ nechosim piece of land over there, is meshubad, and then you have to pay, even if you ate it, even if you didn't eat it, doesn't make a difference, it's still meshubad. Thank you very much, and to be continued. Yeah, very good. Shkoyach, tomorrow we'll summarize again for everybody, and I do hope that tomorrow we're going to have a full house over here. Thank you very much, everybody.